Today we have myself and Oscar from West Point. This is Oscar. This is your first time on a coffee chat, right?
Yeah, it is. I've been doing some work behind the camera, but this is the first time actually on the stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Feel nervous, but I'm sure it'll be a warm welcome.
Yeah, I hope so. So, guys, say hi to Oscar. We also have Milda returning. We had you were on a couple of weeks back, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you want to introduce yourself, Milda?
Yes, I can do. So I'm a senior security consultant. I've been in consulting in security actually for about 7 years now. And I've been working primarily in GRC, which is governance, risk and compliance area, and variety of audit assessments and implementation projects for governance and strategy. So this is primarily my background, although I have a keen interest in technology, and I've been trying to improve my skills in incident management and blue teaming. So this is something that is my latest interest. Probably that's all about me.
And of course, we have returning Cyber Lounge legend Paul Barker. It's been a while since you've been on, Paul.
Yeah, no, it has been busy times, which I guess is good for us all that we're all busy. But thanks for having me back. My background is ostensibly within operational and cyber resilience and crisis management. Before that, sort of a long background, come to that through sort of traditional risk management routes, enterprise risk management, through both a subject matter perspective, but also the delivery of large-scale transformation. So seen a number of things across the years. I know I don't look very old, but have a few years under the belt of seeing things in various different parts of the world, but predominantly financial services, education and the leisure sectors. So great to be back.
Cool. So just quickly before we actually get kicked off, let's do our favorite segment. What are we drinking? What have you got, Oscar?
I've got a mug and it's yet to be filled, I'm afraid. So
we're off to a great start.
Yeah.
What about you, Paul?
I thought Oscar was really going to blag away there and go, oh yeah, it's a company coffee mug with. I've got decaf coffee today, so this is the first time I've actually managed to get coffee in my cup at the right amount of time. But yeah, still decaf.
And Milda?
So I've got first time I made coffee at home, and I wanted to make it properly, like Italian cappuccino. Big failure, messed up the entire kitchen, but I managed to get the coffee anyway. So I think I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah, and I've got ugly drink, so it's just sparkling water basically. But quickly become addicted to it because it's basically just flavored water. So anyway, now I think Oscar, you wanted to kick off the talk.
Yeah. For everyone in the comments, be sure to get in your questions. This will be a coffee chat on risk management and sort of the disconnect between the security and the risk teams in general. So be sure to ask your questions to Milda and Paul, and we'll do our best to sort of read them out. So I'd like to start off with the question, is there a security team without risk management? I think, Milda, you can already start answering. That's okay.
Yes. So my opinion is that security cannot be done without risk management. This is like one person said, I think a coach during a CISSP course, that this is the motherhood and the apple pie of security. If you don't like risk management, you shouldn't be doing security. It's kind of similar to, I would like to be a doctor, but I don't like blood. So it's the kind of thing that you can't separate. I think the key differentiator between security and IT is the risk management. And I think you will find it everywhere on security courses in universities and online courses in any degrees like CISSP or qualifications, that it always includes and involves risk management modules of some sort, because this is essentially telling us how much we need to mitigate the risks in terms of implementing controls and applying all sorts of IT improvements. And from my own experience, let's say, always the teams that are the doers are the IT teams, and they come back asking questions how much we should be doing it. And it always comes back to the risk appetite. So they are usually not the people who understand risk management. They are implementers and doers. And so if in the organization there is no risk management in technology implementation, that just means that there is no security team as such. This is my view, and I think this is how majority kind of industry standards look at this as well.
I think sometimes there's a difference between managing risk and risk management, and maybe it's just the sort of financial services background that I come from, in that when people generally talk about risk management, they're referring to a function within the organization, the risk team, as a traditional second line of defense piece. If we look at managing risk, well, we all dynamically manage risk in our day-to-day lives. We don't cross the road without assessing risk. We don't walk up the stairs without assessing risk. So absolutely, there's certainly no security without managing risk, and doing that actively. So I think that's certainly true. But whether there is whether the information security and the cybersecurity element has truly, passed by osmosis into the traditional risk management mindset, that's where I think there's possibly still a disconnect. Well, I know that there's a disconnect, certainly in a great number of financial services institutions, because risk management has become a sort of cottage industry of its own. Cybersecurity, again, it's back to that sort of old argument that we've had about the silo mentality, and it's the silo mentality of organizations, not just these two areas that we're talking about. So I think that's critical. It ultimately boils down to culture.
Do you think it could be something to do with big organizations having risks in variety of different functions? So for them, it's not always about technology risk. Like they don't see risk in technology overall. They see, let's say, legal risk, financial risks, operational risks of some sort, but technology risk is just something that IT does.
I think that has been a false assumption that is very prominently, accepted. And let's not forget, there's still, look at who makes up the board in the majority of large organizations. You look at who makes up the board of a lot of startups and a lot of new companies. You've got a lot more, and I'm not being ageist here, but you've got younger people. You've got people who are more digitally aware and digitally savvy and cyber savvy, who are actually driving and steering these companies. There's a huge issue in the sort of non-executive market where it's still the middle-aged white man who's driving strategy at the top level. And a lot of those people are very good at cyber and technology. A lot of them have come along, but there's an awful lot of them that haven't as well. And when they're still dominating the tone at the top of the organization, it's very comfortable for boards to sit, particularly in regulated industries where the regulator has gone, I want to know about your market risk. I want to know about your capital position. I want to know about your liquidity position, and focus on these sort of financial risks and the financial resilience and stability, which has been, the organizational pressure up until the operational resilience rules came along. And now obviously we're getting towards having DORA in the EU. And we're starting to see more of this cyber coming in as risk profiles have changed. And what's happened is that risk profile has changed faster than the risk understanding within all levels of the organization. And that's what I think causes that huge disconnect, is that we as humans haven't caught up with the pace of technology and the extent to which even a business service that's delivered without, and not online, i.e. someone calls a call center or someone goes into a branch, that process, even though it's a face-to-face or over the phone, is still almost sort of 90% driven by technology, because everything that's happening behind the scenes is no longer being done in triplicate on carbon paper. It's getting tapped straight into a computer, and thereafter, it's a digital service. And that, I don't think, has percolated enough into the consciousness of everybody within the organization.
I think you're right in the sense that, from at least from what I've seen working with a variety of clients, usually it's the large organizations, and it was, I think, somehow surprising to me that there was large financial organizations that are typically very they have more difficulties to adapt. It's the small, younger organizations, I think, that they are kind of doing better in that sense. I don't know whether that's to do with cultural and sort of political setup of these financial organizations, and generally large corporations. It's just easier to control and manage the smaller organization that way.
Well, I think also you can look at it that for a lot of the, let's call them the challenger organizations, the startups and the disruptors, actually the vector for disruption to achieve a competitive edge over the larger organizations actually comes through technology. That's the opportunity. So I think sometimes because of that, I think, one, there's a general awareness that, we all run our personal lives through one of these now, and have done for the last, 15, 20 years, yet we go to the office and it's still spreadsheets and PowerPoints, so that still hasn't come. And where people have spotted those opportunities, they're largely in the technology space, and therefore their entire organizational proposition and their mission is to exploit technology to gain a competitive advantage over the super tanker of the investment bank or the insurance company, who's got, this sort of behemoth infrastructure that makes them very unwieldy. And also, due to their sort of size and scale, they tend to do that, budget has gone to risk management for risk management purposes, and budget has gone to the security team to do security. And let's be honest, those budgets that have gone to the security team are scary big. And therefore, there's almost a false assumption, again, by the board, if we're spending that much money on security, we must be getting, a full service suite for our money. And it's not always the case if there's that disconnect between the way we're setting, risk appetite, which in many organizations for operational risks, which include the cyber risks, is very much the afterthought to the rest of the, the more financial and business driven risks.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So just to cut in on you guys, it looks like we've got some comments now.
Yeah.
So we have Jordan. Welcome back to the Cyber Lounge, Jordan. You've been here the last couple of weeks, I think. He said, I think the interesting thing is that both technology and people are treated very separately when it comes to security. The reality is that there is a commodity here, and there is a need to understand the relationship between the two. That is something that, as an industry, that we are still fairly immature on.
I would say yes, probably. If I understand the comment right, there's a lot of focus on technology, and you can see that still in quite many organizations. I would say that where the security is not mature just yet. I'm thinking about countries outside the UK, in Europe. Just somehow I observed that in Europe it's not as mature, maybe just my perception. But what I'm trying to say is usually organizations are trying to fix everything by implementing more technology,
Yep.
More tools, add more whatever, anything that will help, basically, without thinking that behind those tools are the people who manage these tools. Sometimes no requirements even for implementing these tools. So you end up having loads of different things doing something, but it's not orchestrated, it's not working together. People are not necessarily trained to use it, and a variety of other things. And everything boils down to people doing something with it, and they just don't know what they should be doing.
I think there is a section that's reserved. There's two sections that are reserved for humans. One is that really boring training that everyone has to do, which magically in 45 minutes is going to transform everyone into a super cyber savvy, technically aware person. Or does it just tick a box to say we've trained the humans? Actually, I think it's the latter, which is probably 0.01% of the budget that's overall sort of devoted to cybersecurity. I mean, you're right. The rest of it's spent on endpoint solutions that probably conflict with each other and cause as many gaps as they plug. The second thing that I like to think is reserved for the humans is the blame element, because we're very good on blaming the humans when things go wrong, when there are breaches. Well, it was a phishing attack. Well, someone clicked on the wrong email. Someone sent the email to the wrong person and shared the data outside the organization. Someone was the subject of on the one hand, when there's a negative to talk about, we're very quick to recognize the human factor in cybersecurity. But when we're looking to invest, we're predominantly looking to invest in, as Milda says, the endpoint solutions and the tools and the shiny toys that keep the security team happy, and everyone's got all these things. But actually, it's the people that are sitting in the chairs. Life is a picnic. The problem is in the chair, not in the computer. And I think LinkedIn user, whoever you may be, you've hit the nail on the head with that one.
So that was Jordan. For some reason, when people have a private profile, it doesn't show the name. But we also have Mayank. Sorry if I got that wrong. Who said there are two types of organization: those who learn from incidents, reactive, and those who learn from risk. And then he followed on to say the people part is the most challenging and the most neglected.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just have to read the headlines. We're still getting pinged with ransomware attacks. Week in, week out. There's another organization that's fallen by it. The best type of mistake to learn from is someone else's mistake. Mm-hmm. And there have been plenty of examples. And I think one of the areas that I've started to see more collaboration on cross industry is the sharing of data related to incidents. So that almost we're creating, the old adage, you can bring the horse to water. Well, we're starting to create the trough of water now, because more and more, the data, the intelligence that sits behind some of these attacks is being shared, because people recognize that, collectively we have greater power to, defend against these types of attacks. But not everyone is coming to that trough to drink from it. So, the data's there, the opportunity's there. But again, it's that trick of convincing organizations that the less tangible side of cybersecurity, which is the more preventative and more proactive piece, where you're threat hunting, you're horizon scanning, you're trying to understand what the tone of the market is, and you're trying to understand what's going on. That's still too intangible in a cost-conscious or a period of austerity that we continue to live through. And I don't think that's something that's changed over the course of COVID. In fact, it's probably got worse, because people feel, less connected to it. But actually, it's where the money is. And otherwise, we are going to keep playing catch up and say, we've been hit by this. Yeah, we've been hit by it again. A third time. When will we learn? And that's the question that doesn't seem to make an impact, within organizations.
I would also probably add that it's unlikely. Well, we should be careful when we say about companies avoiding incidents, because it's kind of difficult to say that you will never get breached. It's probably there are also there's this kind of which says that there are two types of organizations: those that have been breached and those that still don't realize that they have been breached. So it is possible that, no matter how much you will protect yourself and what you will do, you will still get breached. So probably that shouldn't be the focus. There should be, things in place to recover from a breach. But I think there are still loads of organizations that try to, they, as Paul said, they're just catching up, and they are not trying to do something different to help themselves. So it's literally just putting off fires. And I guess that's also where this fatigue in security industry comes in. Somehow I'm always, when I'm reading some sort of news stories about people being fatigued and how it's difficult and how things don't work, it just makes me think that they are not really understanding their job very well. They are not trying to go ahead of this whole situation. They are just trying to catch up, and they are just fixing what is there rather than thinking about things innovatively. There's always a way to do things better. I think that's the kind of key message.
But I think Milda, some of that frustration and that fatigue is driven by frustration, because I think at the coalface level, at the operational level, I think people have a very clear understanding of how doing things differently could be very valuable. It's the fact that they're unable to influence further back in the organization or higher up in the organization that this is an effort that is worth spending time on, because all the management are saying is firefighting. We're too busy to learn. And I think that's what, when you know that there's a better way out there to solve this problem, and you're powerless to do anything about it, I think that's where that sort of slight Groundhog Day, eventually gets you, and causes that sort of fatigue, because, it's been a constant theme in these conversations about, how everybody needs a, CISSP just to make tea, entry level, you need
very much so, yes.
And all of this stuff. And yet these people, once they're employed into these roles, they're not allowed to use that knowledge that they have. They're not allowed to use this expertise because they're placed within these very tight constraints by their organizations that say, here's a fire extinguisher, this is your arc, you deal with that. And all you're doing is putting out the fires all the time. And what's the point of spending all that time and money getting CISP if that's all you're allowed to do? And I think that's the piece where we need to look not just at the people versus the technology, but we need to look holistically at this, at the systemic organizational problems that are preventing us from being more agile and dynamic, and as Mike's saying there, good incident management and not necessarily can replace risk management, but it can replace a lot of crisis management, because you're dealing with the problems before they become fires. And that's, that allows you that then space. You're moving further and further into the future, because you're dealing with the things that are just simmering and the things that are just bubbling away and the things that are starting to go. And because you can solve them much quicker and with much fewer resources, you can go further and further and further away, which gives you a nice calm trajectory into where you are today. Whereas if you're always behind the curve and it's already turned into a mass conflagration, then all you can do is stand there and point the hose at it.
It always makes me think that being in this kind of position, you almost need to be I don't know, can you say influencer to the leadership and the board? I think probably because they don't realize what the job is like. I mean, they don't realize what the risk is. I think if the people manage to get into positions that are management and leadership and the board, they are not clueless in a way. So I think the fact that they don't realize it is just the lack of education in that space.
Yes.
So when security managers try to fix things, I think they very much need to start with fixing the mentality and the kind of lack of education. So when they do get that, when they actually, many times I notice the managers, they kind of think that they are the ones who take the ownership for the risk, While if they turn it around and say you are the decision maker and you are the one to accept or want to do something with this risk, then the kind of thinking changes. I think the position, people are successful when they make this switch, saying, I want you to tell me what to do with this risk, because it's you who's going to get hurt if something happens. So when they realize that, many things change, because people realize that this is their responsibility and they have to do something about that risk. So I would say, I noticed that the managers that do best is the ones that see themselves as a service provider. Sort of, they say, well, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So my conscience is calm in a way. I'm sleeping well at night, but you are the risk owner. So I'll do as much as you want me to do. So you are then supposed to give me the budget and the resources and whatever to make this happen.
Yeah, and just looking, another comment from my end there, and I think it's a really good one. Unfortunately, risk is usually used to demonstrate to the regulators that we're in compliance, and I think
very much so. Yeah.
Between that and I think also the 3 lines of defence model has got an awful lot to take the blame for this, because you're creating this first line versus second line risk management, and absolutely it's been a struggle to push the ownership of risks back into the first line, and actually saying, well, the rest of the organization is actually there to support the first line in delivering to our customers. And but Mayank also recognizes something that I've talked about before, and I think is well known, because at the same time, the IT guys and the security guys need to be a little friendlier as well. They need to be a bit of a better team player. Stop hiding behind the jargon and the acronyms and the trying to make we're calling it engineering now rather than developing. We're trying to build this sort of castle, and as long as we build this castle and say keep out if you're not a CISP, then we're making it really intangible. We're not helping the rest of the business to understand. So we need to speak the same language across the business, and the business need to understand the tech better, and the tech guys need to understand the business better. We just basically need to work in a much more collaborative way so that everyone has that opportunity to get up the curve. And that's not to take away from, yes, you need technical skills. Yes, you need people, who are, at a certain level. But if someone turns around and says, oh, I would give you our document, but you wouldn't understand it, that doesn't really help.
So I think we're sort of come to an end here, unless you guys have any final thoughts you want to put across.
I think we probably said the key things. Yeah, the most important thing.
Anyway.
Yeah. Great. Just last things I see there in the comments. Sapphire Eagle, thanks for joining us again. Another Cyber Lounge regular. Mayank said risk managers need to talk the jargon of both businesses and IT. I think that kind of echoes what you were saying, Paul. And then Sapphire Eagle said risk awareness is critical thought analysis, but absolutely spot on. Collaborate, demystify with simplicity, which is, I think, a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and I think to Mayank's point, try and take the jargon out as much as possible, and rather than have risk managers speaking the 2 languages of both business and IT, let's try and get everyone speaking the same language, and then everyone has a fair crack at the whip. Yeah,
I even say many times when I work with tech teams and then need to explain this to management, I'm just translating from machine code. Essentially, you just need to be that person in the middle, understanding the 2 bits, the 2 worlds, and make it easy for. Just answer the question. So what? Tell the story. What is going to happen if you want to keep this risk? For example, the tech people are saying X, Y, Z is going to happen, and not like some sort of very complicated abbreviations and code.
Awesome. So just to kind of close up here, we have another event on the 10th. That's going to be with Klaus. We're going to be talking about DevOps and how that's become an integral practice in many development teams, but security is not usually an integral part of the process. So that's going to be a really interesting one. That's on the 10th at 11:30 BST. And for everyone else, it would be great if you'd join us in the Cyber Lounge, a LinkedIn group. I believe we have around 1,300 people in there. Is that right, Oscar?
I think around there, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can continue the discussion in there. Feel free to reach out now to any of us on LinkedIn, and we can to ask any questions you have. I know a lot of people will be watching this after the fact and might not get a chance to ask you questions. Cyber Lounge is a perfect place to do so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry, for Sapphire Eagle's comment, can we get a copy of this podcast? I think it will be posted on the Cyber Lounge after this, but it will be on the YouTube channel, West Point Recruitment, by the end of the day with all the cool coffee chat logos and everything. So
yeah, of course, yeah.
Be sure to check that out.
So thanks so much for everyone who watched and everyone who's asking questions and engaging. We really appreciate having you here. And of course, huge thanks to Milda and Paul for your time.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks to Oscar for setting this up, of course. Wouldn't be
well done,
here
Oscar,
without you.
first one.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone, and have an excellent week. Enjoy your coffees.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.